Hello and welcome everyone. Boy am I bullish. So, the crypto rebound has happened. It's what the crypto naysayers didn't think would happen. I'm going to give you an update on the tracking that I do every month. We'll get to that in a minute. But let's start with the state of Bitcoin and Ethereum and where the financial markets are. So I'm really happy to see this, right? After the corona pandemic, we could have had a situation on our hands, and that's not what we've had, right? So if you look at this chart, this is Bitcoin US dollar. Around about middle of Feb, we've got the news that the coronavirus was spreading in the West, and bam, in just half a month, all the way to $4,800. Now, the first point I'd like to make, if crypto, Bitcoin and Ethereum were just a fad, just something with no real purpose, no value, no, nothing to offer society and the world, well then guess what? You wouldn't have seen this. I mean, look at the slope, roughly, that we've got there, bouncing all the way back in just over a month, right? Bouncing back in a month, that's no fad. So that's the first piece of good news. If crypto, Bitcoin and Ethereum were going to zero, this would have continued. Because quite frankly, we're not looking at a normal situation. This isn't 2008. This isn't even 2000. This is worse in some ways than the 1929 depression. I mean, people are talking about industries that will never come back. So look at this. This is an advert. That's an advert. This is an article. Air travel. I don't have to tell you. I mean, if you've been following this, air travel's in so much trouble. Okay, breweries, casinos, any industry where people need to be in physical groups, cruises. Some of these established companies have been going for 100 years. They're not gonna come back. They're bankrupt. Events, film and TV production, even fitness. People aren't going to the gym, right? Here's another article: 10 ways in which retail will never be the same after COVID. Okay, a lot of e-commerce, a lot of online. Now, basically, if established industries are struggling and they're not going to come back, right? What does it say about Bitcoin that did this? There's value in there. Okay, people feel that there's value in there. Some of it has to do with the halvening, and that's days, if not hours away. I'm recording this on the 9th of May. So we're not far away from that, and I'll talk about that in a minute, right? So firstly, I'll close these two tabs. This is fantastic news. This means that the long-term recovery after the early 2018 drop, the next cycle is back. It's on its way. It's real. All what we've seen in response to this crisis basically helped Bitcoin and crypto in general. All right? I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But money printing, centralization, people and industry know that that's not great. That's, the US dollar being printed at basically an alarming rate. I've covered this in a previous video. So let's get back on track. Let's now look at my investment strategy that I basically cover every month and give you an update. I'll do a very quick update. And why I think we're going to hit a bit of a rough patch temporarily. And it's good. It's good reason. So there's two things I'm going to talk about. So firstly, where we are now, today, Ethereum's bounced back over 200 after a long time. Feb was our best month on this spreadsheet, but that was just before the COVID-19 influenced market crash. But the other good news is that Bitcoin has seen a bit of a rally early in May. The Ethereum Bitcoin ratio, the one that we're watching, has dropped a little bit. Okay, I'm going to talk about that now and as to why. So let's just look at if you invested that $1,330 on the 4th of Jan, this is what I track every month. You could have bought 10 Ethereum for that price, or you could have bought 0.1814 Bitcoin. The 10 Ethereum would be worth obviously $2,100. The Bitcoin would be worth $1,752. So this year Ethereum has by far been the best investment, almost doubling. In fact, in Feb, before the crash, you would have almost doubled purely on the Ethereum price. Now, if you use my strategy for a double gain, if you bought Ethereum at that price and then took advantage of the Ethereum ratio climbing against Bitcoin and traded that way as well, here's where you'd be. Okay, so that's slightly more than just buying Ethereum and selling it, and that's because the equation has dropped. You will see in some instances, in March, for example, we hit a high of 0.028, and it significantly outperformed just buying Ethereum. Over the long term, until Ethereum plateaus, this ratio, I'm saying that this is the best. This is going to be your best performer out of this three, right? Not just buying Ethereum alone, but I mean, if you look at converting back into dollars, that's a very important point. But somebody else was talking to me. I do get some feedback on these videos, and somebody mentioned to me, well, he's going to go all in and just buy Ethereum. And I put a video out a few weeks back showing the end game, how to plan an end strategy. If you want $1 million, you can split this out. And I said to him, look, playing this ratio is great, but there's risk, inherent risk here with Ethereum. Do not put all your eggs in this basket trying to play in this ratio if you don't own any Bitcoin. If you own 0 Bitcoin and you say to me, Tavesh, I like what you're saying in terms of this ratio and the gains that we're potentially seeing, like here, so I'm just going to buy Ethereum. I don't actually recommend that. Now remember, nothing that I'm saying here is financial advice. I've got to do the disclaimer. So this is just exploratory, right? Having said that, if this were financial investment seminar or anything like that, you shouldn't have 0 Bitcoin and put all your eggs in this basket. Just keep that in mind, right? I don't recommend that. Diversification is always a very, very good thing. So, just to recap, this proves that crypto is not a fad, because COVID killed a whole bunch of industries. It didn't kill crypto. We're almost back to where we were in Feb. We've still got a little bit to go to almost 12,000 where we were in August. But that brings me to this. So I found this in TradingView, and thanks to a user called Trading Shot. Hope you don't mind, but I'm calling you out, giving you a call out there. This is just a chart showing the halving. So here's a halving event, and bam, immediately after, like literally not in the same month, bit of a rally, a pause, and then a rally, and that was an all-time high. Here's another halving event that we had in 2016, and you see here we had a slow rise. It took about July to December. This took about 18 months to fully get to the peak, but what a peak it was, right? This is where we hit almost 20,000. But it started just after the halving, and here we are now here. What you don't see, if you zoom in, there's a slight dip after the halving there, and that's because of the euphoria. Many people buy in anticipation of the halving and then try and sell. So that could well happen here as well. Now, what I want to say is that many people think that the halving's priced in. Okay, they say, well, the halving's priced in, don't worry too much about it. The halving, the actual value of the halving may be priced in, but the euphoria is never priced in. So it could work either way. In terms of what we're tracking here though, what you need to keep in mind is that I'm expecting this ratio to drop temporarily. In spite of all the great stuff that's happening with Ethereum 2.0 later this year. There was another update recently for the beacon chain. I'm just trying to, I think it's called the Schlessie testnet. So every month, every week, there's a small step towards Ethereum 2.0. But in spite of that, we have this halvening event, which means over the next period, 1 to 2 months, more money will go into Bitcoin. Remember, if 1 million people decide the halvening is a good thing and they put $1,000, that's $1 billion into Bitcoin, which could cause price growth, right? So I think the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio could go back down to that 200 mark. I don't think it's going to go back there. That was very close to the low. I think it'll go back down temporarily. I think the next time I do an update in about a month's time, we could see it equal to or even less than this 0.022, closer to 0.02. But the overall price of both of these could be significantly higher. Ethereum could track towards 300 or maybe at least 250, and Bitcoin should be over the 10,000 mark, unless there's that dip, this dip that we saw after the last halving event. So we're right here now. So that's great, right? The other big thing is that I'm looking to see for more actual use cases, the top dApps. Okay, state of the dApps. Let's just bring that up quickly, because it's not just about you know, it's not just about the value of it, right? So according to this one, MakerDAO, this is something on Steam, and I try to ignore the games. MakerDAO, the finance world is where Ethereum does really, really well. If I look at this one, let's just go all. You'll see that some of these games on Tron and EOS are a lot more popular than what we see on Ethereum. Just need to get the filter. Why is it not filtering? Okay, that's fine. So you can go and look at some of these sites. You'll find that, as I said, the top dApps, they change, but they're not always on Ethereum. But the really long-term stuff, the you know, stuff like Chainlink, by the way, a lot of people are saying has a lot of potential. Uniswap, so the exchange stuff and the DeFi stuff is pretty much on Ethereum, right? And that's good. But we still haven't got to our killer dApp. Back in the old days, we had killer app in the IT world, killer dApp. Right now, it could be Compound. I don't see Compound on this list. Okay, there we go. There's Compound on that list. So I'll update that as we go along. Now, one more thing I want to say is that I started off the video by saying crypto didn't die. Industries are going to die, but crypto didn't die. It bounced right back. Look at that. Look at that performance. We're almost about 90% of where we were before this started. Okay, 9th of May today. When I look at the stock markets, if you look at the Dow, this is the historical performance. There's the 1920s. Look at that drop. That's massive. Then we had stagflation era. Then the dot-com drop, which actually was in free fall for 3 years. Feb 2003, so call it 2 years. Right? Okay, three years. Then there's 2008. A lot steeper, but just 1 year. Now, the coronavirus crisis has really killed industries. It's a lot worse than these two. And people are comparing it to the Depression, the Great Depression. Right? I certainly hope it's not another line that's down like this. That would be just disaster. Imagine if it comes all the way back down and we go back to 2008 levels. This is the stock market, by the way. But it could. But the thing is, have a look if I zoom in. If I zoom in, you'll see that we dropped down, but we're back halfway up. That didn't happen previously. Number one. Number two, why was the 2008 crisis, which was a big crisis? I mean, this dot-com bust was just one industry, the tech industry. The 2008 crisis affected all industries. Why was it just shorter than this? This was a 3-year cycle. Because this is where the money printing started. This is where they threw the economic book out the window. Here, the fact that you're seeing this is also a reflection of that. We could be 6 months and back to where we were. Now, if you look at the S&P, it's a similar story. If I look at the NASDAQ, it's even more. We're almost back to the top. We're not halfway like the other two. Now these are mostly tech stocks on the NASDAQ. Tech stocks are doing very, very well. I look at AMD and I think it's actually up since before the crisis, if I'm not mistaken. And Nvidia doing very well as well. What I'm trying to say here is that the actual stock market crash hasn't happened. A lot of people agree with me and feel this way. So here you're seeing the boom of the 2010s. And this was the longest boom ever. Right? See, it's longer than what we had there. There was a bit of a boom there, but people generally accepted that this was one of the greatest rallies in the stock market that we've ever seen. And basically it was due for a correction. This correction is due to the coronavirus. Now people are saying, you're going to have the money printing getting us back there almost, within 6 months, maybe not more than a year. And it's going to continue. The real crash hasn't happened. That is further bullishness for gold and crypto. And that is when I think Bitcoin will become the reserve currency of the world, right? Which makes it an even better investment. So I hope that was useful to you and interesting. It's a hell of a time that we live in, and I hope you're all safe, and I hope you're observing lockdown and staying safe. Keep up to speed on the crypto market. This is the exciting time. The Bitcoin halving, the coronavirus crisis, which is not a good thing, but is going to be big to see. This is Bitcoin's moment. Bitcoin and Ethereum, these two. The rest, I don't really care about. This is a scam. Don't worry too much about this. I don't know why it's at number 3. The only other one that I like, some people say Chainlink. I like a little bit of Cardano and Monero. That's it. But I've said that before. But we could see a new world reserve currency for global macroeconomics, for balance of payments, for buying oil. Oil is going to come back, by the way. Because once the economies come back, you're going to have to move around. Airlines will come back. The problem is, who will own those airlines? Okay, a lot of them are going bankrupt at the moment. But airlines will come back. Once we have a vaccine, things are going to look a lot better. So hang in there. I hope you enjoyed this. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys soon.